On this episode of AV Week, acquisitions galore. What does that mean for integrators as they either lose or gain product lines? Also, what does that mean for the technologies moving forward? How do you go from working for an integrator to a manufacturer or vice versa? Plus, what are some of our plans for Infocom? All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
AV Week is brought to you by our fine group of underwriters, companies like Biamp. This is AV Week, episode 243, recorded Friday, April 22nd, 2016. A symbol of the times.
Ready.
AV Week.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AV Week. AV Week. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. Welcome. We're going to wrap up, well, a boatload of acquisitions and some other news as well. But first, to talk about this is the brain trust for this week. First and foremost, the left-hand side of my brain, his name is George Tucker, also engineering coordinator for World Stage. Welcome, sir.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Also with us is Mr. Jeremy Caldera. He is from a company called ZDI. Welcome, sir.
Hello, how are you?
Good. And last but not least, it's not afternoon, it's early evening for our good friend, Mr. Ed Morgan. But thank you very much for staying up and hanging out with us, sir.
No, you're very welcome. It was great to be on the show, so I'm really excited.
Absolutely. And Ed's from a company called Display Note. Also from Ireland, if you couldn't tell. So,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes. I mean, it's Irish or it's Jersey, one of the two. All right, so let's see. Here's the thing, guys, and if you've never watched AV Week and you've ever been on, what I typically do is I get people, I con them into giving me half an hour of their week, and then I send them all these stories, right? And the articles that I sent these fine gentlemen this week, I think I basically said, here's a boatload of articles on people getting bought. Read a couple of them because it's all about the same topic. Holy crap, yeah. Everybody's getting bought. So here's what, let's just kind of run down it. Last week it was, or 2 weeks ago, it was Milestone buying Vadio, right? Last week, right before the show hit, it was Polycom getting bought by Mitel. We kind of mentioned it at the top of the show, and I'll be very frank. I didn't have enough information about Mitel to speak intelligently about it, and neither did any of the guests at that point in time because it had just happened. So we just kind of said, here's instant information, do with it what you will. Now we've got Alpha Video acquiring Video Tech. You've got a company that if you've ever ran around in the world of testing equipment, a company called Teledyne LaCroix is buying. Excuse me. Good Lord, where the heck did that go? This is awesome. Quantum Data, good Lord, just went out of my head. Quantum Data, and last but not least, Legrand is getting into, is buying Luxel. So, all of that, and what this means, not only to, obviously, these people and their individual companies, but what does that mean to the display chain? What does that mean when you're designing systems? What does that mean when you're trying to put these systems in? George, you can tackle one of these or just take a look at these as a whole, because one of the things that has been written about and pontificated on in various Twitterverses and Facebook updates is this is not over yet. Right, this is just the beginning of what some people have called acquisition season, meaning the lead up to Infocom. So what do all these mean?
Well, we're not alone in that also. I mean, it's the mergers and acquisitions season for Bloomberg and all the rest of those financials watching people. So 'tis the season for all of that stuff. But, I can basically sum it up with quoting Spaceballs or modifying that. It's the search for more ecosystem. I think as we elbow each other in a small market, when markets overlapping each other, you have a need to secure what your network's going to need, especially that word network. Almost all of these are about acquiring methods of delivering that content and keeping it reliable. So, I mean, Mitel with Polycom, not only do they get the telecommunication, but they also get this sort of secure and robust network. The same thing with the buying Luxel, Legrand. This is all about getting that systems and their systems to be reliable and have the source to do that and have a one-stop shop. So, manufacturers do it sometimes when they make their own, or you acquire. So I really think that's where that's going. It's ecosystem all the way.
All right, Jeremy, when it comes to designing these systems and you've got established brands, right? And I'm going to pick on Polycom and Mitel for a second. You have established brands that you whether or not you like them, but you've used them for a number of years. You know how they operate. You know how they work. How does this figure into not only your design but also your commissioning of these systems?
Well, I think it's going to make it very interesting because now you have a whole, possibly more product that you have available to you, right? Or you've lost product, right? So, some dealers may, they just may be cut off. Some dealers may be picked up. So now you've got a whole other, if you think of Mitel, how many Mitel dealers are out there that are now going to have access to all the Polycom stuff? So now there's a whole realm of competition as well. So, there's all kinds of different ways to look at this. But from a design perspective, it's usually always a good thing whenever you get more, product to choose from, I think.
Well, and you make a good point. Have you seen, maybe in the past, not asking about these specific mergers, have you seen in the past where suddenly you don't have access to a product line, right? Where, brand A is going to buy brand B, and they're like, you know what? I don't know you. Your numbers don't look that great to me. Yeah, you're out. Where suddenly you're kind of screwed. You're kind of screwed where you had a product line 2 seconds ago and suddenly you don't. Have you ever seen that happen?
On a smaller scale, yes. I've had some cases where we've been dropped, but it was a, not a next day type of thing, right? It took time. A lot of them are really good about honoring quotes and requests and things of that nature. But like I said, sometimes when if you're a small fish in a big pond, when you're talking about large companies like that, who are you to them, really? So your numbers could be huge, in the world of AV, but then when you look at it in the world of, I pick on Mitel, Polycom. In the world of Mitel, right? Your numbers aren't very big. So
absolutely, yeah. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company. So. All right, Ed, you have an interesting perspective here because, Ed, their manufacturing side, you guys have done a number of different contracts and agreements, one most recently with NEC. How does stuff like this play into when you start talking about acquisitions? How do those relationships, do they help you or once somebody starts, and just to be clear, Ed's not getting bought, right? I'm just using him as our token manufacturer here. How do these conversations, and you walk through this? I understand a contract is a contract, right? And when you buy a company, you're buying all the baggage and you're buying the good and the bad. But how do you walk through that?
Well, before I get into that, the last time I was on the show, Cisco had just stumped up nearly 750 million for Acano.
Yeah.
I said at the time, this is going to be, you're going to see lots more acquisitions. And now I got the call list for the show this week, and I see 4 or 5 acquisitions like crikey. I got it right.
You did.
How it plays out. Yeah. So the next time I'm back on, I think it'll have grown exponentially. And to take George's analogy, the logical conclusion for that is we're left with one company. Everyone else has bought everyone else. We're just left with one thing. I guess how it plays out, I don't have any personal experience of how it, plays out from end to end. Being in the business, we're being a manufacturer and coming from the smaller side of things, and we've had those. There have been those kinds of conversations, and sometimes they're a distraction and they take you away from the core business of producing good product for customers. And you've got a large multinational say, oh, well, we could potentially buy you guys. And so that's, for us, you have to keep your eyes away from that. If it happens, it happens. Speaking how it would actually play out then, if it did happen, I don't know. I don't know how labor goes from one company to another, so I can't really speak of what that's like at its end state.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the one, and we're going to get to our next story here real quick, but Ed brings up a good point where one of the things that has been bandied about, kind of in tongue in cheek, is the fact that eventually there's going to be one giant booth at Infocom, right? Question is, whose name is on that booth, right? Is it Alphabet? Alphabet, if you're not aware, is the parent company of Google and a whole bunch of other stuff. Is it Cisco? Is it a derivative or a version of Harman at this point? Because let's be honest, Harman, I know for the last 2 or 3 years in a row, right before or around Infocom, has announced some sort of acquisition. Technically, yes, I'm aware. Last year's acquisition of SVSI was technically not Harman. It was AMX who purchased them. But let's be honest here, it's like saying that my kid bought something. They didn't buy anything. It was my money. So let's kind of play this out. George, is there? We're not going to get to one booth. I understand that. But is there somebody either inside or outside of AV that is poised to be this gargantuan gorilla? Oh, George. There, George?
I'm here.
There you
I'm
are.
here. Yeah, you went away from me too. I don't know why.
Huh.
All right. So is there one gargantuan from the outside or somebody who's going to sneak in? I think was the question you asked.
Yeah.
Besides you mentioning, say, Alphabet, who seems to be buying up all these little small companies and then disposing of them in certain ways, we'll see if that technology rolls into something greater. And that has been the concern, I guess, for a while. But look, Microsoft has been trying to do it for a decade now, or more, with their smart home technologies and their smart home demonstrations and everything else. And Apple seems to be inching its way towards that and had the right ecosystem model. But it's a big business. Even though I said earlier small, it's a big enough business that there's always going to be some variable of companies that will be doing it not off the shelf and not in a sort of cordoned off ecosystem. So I'm not afraid of that. I'm really more interested in seeing what these upstart developers and Kickstarter guys are going to come up with that may just change how we do certain things. And that means our models change, but we're still going to be putting AV into people's houses or into their boardrooms.
All right. Jeremy, is there anybody? Go ahead, Ed.
Sorry, Tim.
Go.
I'm thinking, with larger companies, and obviously they always have one eye on, or certainly more now than before, on disruptors, and they are aware of how quickly small startups can go to be a disruptor in a short space of time. So now they're thinking, well, let's not wait. Let's just buy them out and suck up their IP and take them into our company rather than watching this play out over 3-4 years.
Well, not only that, but also their talent too, right? And that's been one of the motivations from my limited understanding of the reason Google buys Nest, right? Or why why Apple does some of their acquisitions is it's not necessarily the product themselves. It's the talent, the engineering talent that comes along with that. So, Jeremy, is there maybe one company that we should all look out for to be this overarching mammoth?
No, I see the Ciscos of the world. I see them starting to acquire things, and it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out with a lot of stuff that they're going to be doing in the future. Microsoft. You never know what they're going to do. They just seem to be the big elephant in the room. You just nobody ever knows. But I'd say from what I've been seeing recently, it's more of the Ciscos and people like that.
That makes sense. You also don't know when Microsoft is going to ship whatever it is they're going to do.
Tim.
Yes.
Just as a sort of follow through on this or loop back, we're an industry that's gone through multiple episodes of what we once relied on as being the thing that we did normally going away, and we found ways to differentiate ourselves as manufacturers, as installers, as techs in the field. So that's sort of what I want to get back to in that statement is that. Regardless of how big and how comprehensive some of these companies may be into the world we are, there's always a way that we differentiate ourselves, whether it's customized screens and GUIs, or whether it's applying that technology in a way that just can't be done out of the box. I'm still a firm believer that they'll make our jobs easier and our ROI better. It's just we won't be doing flat panel hangs on over the fireplaces anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as we as integrators adjust to that and adjust to that new reality, we'll still be in business. And you've preached for years on AVNation about how we can no longer be, display hangers. We cannot be hang and bang. We have to adjust. Otherwise, we're going to be out of business. So
Yeah.
All right, next up here, guys. It's an interesting topic, and understand a lot of times when I pick topics, the stories themselves are not necessarily interesting. I'm sure Mr. Davies is a very interesting guy, but it's more about the topic here. From friends over at Innovate on the Net, Brian Davies is moving from AMX to UK integrator GV Multimedia. He's the new development director for Northern England and Scotland. Why does that matter? Well, again, very nice guy, very interesting guy. Here's where I want to go with this, though, guys. George is one of the few people that I know personally that has made this transition, and so we're going to end up with him. But the idea here is, and the question is, how do you successfully navigate your career between manufacturer and integrator? And I'm not going to say one direction or another, because I know both, right? I know some great integrators who have gone on to work for manufacturers, and some very talented folks who've worked for manufacturers who've gone on to work for integrators. Jeremy, I'm gonna pick on you here. You're the one who works for the integrator properly. George does live staging as well as integration. If you were counseling someone, right? Jeremy also teaches at Columbia College. He has access to some great young AV professionals. You're talking to a student, right? And wherever they are in their life, in their career, how would you say, you know what, if you want to move from point A to point B, how would you successfully navigate that?
I would tell everyone that integration is where you need to go to first. I always find it interesting when manufacturers go to integrators. It seems backwards to me. I don't understand that. I don't know why. I think that's just always been what I've experienced in my entire career. Is it seems to go that you go from integration to consulting to manufacturing. Like that seems to be like, for some reason, maybe the perceived upward mobility, although I don't know that that's necessarily true, right? But I think from an integration standpoint, you learn everything, right? I mean, you can get your hands into everything from install to design, engineering, whatever, project management. You can get the whole wide gamut of stuff to do. And then from the manufacturing side, you're kind of just, stuck representing the manufacturer, doing whatever it is that you're doing for that one manufacturer. If it's development of this or sales of that or repping this or whatever, you're kind of pigeonholed, if you will, to one certain area of expertise, right? So to go from that into integration, to me, I would be completely lost, right? But I could see a logical step going from integration to something like that, where you're sick of the crazy hours and the little pay and the complaining customers, and you just want to go to something a little bit more relaxed, right? At least that's the way I see it.
Okay,
some of the manufacturers may not agree with me on that at all by any stretch of the imagination. But
as luck would have it, we have a manufacturer on. So Ed, tell Jeremy all about your relaxed life and your 3-hour work days and your 5 Guinness.
That's how I see it. That's exactly how we see it.
It used to be 3-hour. Used to be a 3-hour work day. It's now down to 2.
Oh, jeez.
And that's 1 day a week. Yeah, so it's pretty nice. The pay is beyond my wildest dreams. I don't really have to worry about anything. So I do one podcast, send a few emails, and that's it. Do you know what? For an integrator, it must be nice to have an absolute arsenal of solutions that you can choose from to say, okay, and shape how a project may turn out. You have a lot of things at your disposal where may not be the case in manufacturers. You may have one widget, and you have to really think about how you position that widget. So, we'll agree to disagree.
Well, and here's the thing. All kidding aside, we all have stresses. I don't. This is what I do for a living now, so I'm jazzed. But I'm going to end up with Tucker here because he's the only one of us 4 who's done both sides. But So I've been tech manager, I've done programming, and I've done integration and stuff like that, right? Consulting. Never done the manufacturing side. So I've always been fascinated by it. And there are goods and bads. I mean, one of my dearest friends has been a rep for 2 separate companies. Worked directly for that company, is currently an independent rep. It's not a great, it's a great life if you don't have a family, right? It's a great life if you enjoy travel and in a different city every day. And if you want to rent, 100 by 100 apartment, and that's kind of where your mail goes, and you see it once a month. Not a great life, if one of the board members for AVNation has been out of country for 3-4 weeks now, right? Missed his wife's birthday, so that's the downside of the manufacturing. So, all right, Mr. Tucker, give me the good, bad, and ugly from both sides, and how do you transition?
I've gone both ways twice. I've gone from an integrator to a manufacturer, from a manufacturer to an integrator. Yes, I know phrasing.
Thank you.
Live with it.
That will make a nice gift.
Yeah. So I mean, look, here's the advantages. The manufacturer, it's both good and bad because you are getting a lot of resources. You understand technologies. You get the first crack at understanding how that's being implemented and being given often the resources to learn that new technology, i.e. wireless or Ethernet when back in 10 years ago when they were first coming into control systems and to display systems. Nobody was really doing that, and we were getting the first crack at being able to understand it, advance our knowledge, and be real experts at it because we had to help the guys when they were putting it in. The bad part is you watch how the sausage is made, and sometimes that's not the most appetizing thing to be a part of. There is the stuff that you wanted that didn't get in. There's the stuff that is bad you can't talk about, and there's the problems being solved. But on the whole, it's about what you want. Is it an advancement to go from, say, integration to a manufacturer? Absolutely. But it's a whole different world, and you recalibrate how your life is lived. You don't go out as often. You don't get that excitement. The adrenaline's not pumping about getting this thing wired and the client being very happy about it. But you are at a desk and you are being able to research stuff. But the frenetic pace inside manufacturing, and Eddie can attest to this, is far more than people would imagine. It's not the slow-paced, casual, thinking of the 1950s kind of life, leave it to Beaver home at 5, because you are really under pressure to get things right, get it done, and then solve the problems. It's almost worse than being in the field. You can at least in the field go, we're talking to the manufacturer, they screwed up, and I got to get an answer for them, I'll leave.
Well,
you can always offset the blame. Your manufacturer went, I don't care what's happening, it's my fault.
Well, so yes, there's some of that on both ends, and
well, listen, if somebody sees that logo, and whether or not your equipment is actually causing it, but that logo is the majority of that rack, it's your problem.
Or it's the biggest one on the rack.
The biggest one. It doesn't matter. You are, or the one that they use the most. It could be the remote. And it has nothing to do with anything else. But you're the problem.
Amen.
So,
go ahead.
You should say that, George. With our partnership with NEC, we put display note on I think it was 800,000 or 900,000 of their interactive.
Just say $1 million, Ed. Just say round it up to $1 million and say $1 million.
But so they were going into Dunkin' Donuts and they were going all around the world, and we were getting calls from Dunkin' Donuts saying, "Hey, display note, I can't turn on your screen. Where's the remote control?" Blah, blah, blah. So it's we it's not our screen.
No.
But yeah, our logo was there, so we were.
Okay, so Tucker, if you, I'm not going to say if you'd had to have your druthers. World State is a very good company. Are there? I guess the best way to ask this is, what are the benefits to both? Right? What are the benefits to working for a manufacturer, and what are the benefits for working, more in the field?
I think it's part of what I just said is that as a manufacturer, you get access to certain levels and degrees of technology that you don't in the field. There's no time in the field. Often you have to learn it off the cuff while you're going. Yeah, you send your guys to training, but they're not going to learn all they need to learn while they're in the field. And then giving those certain people time to say, okay, you're not going on job sites this week. I'm going to have you learn this particular thing, and you'll be responsible for it. That's great, but that hurts your bottom line. That means you got guys working extra time. Manufacturer can schedule their employees to rotate, and everybody takes the load evenly, and you sort of distribute it. You can do that in integrator, but it's far easier in a corporate structure. to make that happen and to get the resources to do it. It really is that's the advantage right there. The advantage of the field is that you see it in action, and there's often times that you see uses for something that the manufacturer went, well, I never intended it for that, but that's a great use. I can't tell you how many times we've seen that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're selling like that for that. Great. But it takes those guys pushing the envelope in the field to figure that out.
Yeah. All right. You know what, guys? We were going to do one more story, but we're at a weird time slot, so we're gonna wrap this one up then. Thank you so much, Mr. Caldera. How do people find you?
Well, I've got ZDIinc.net's our website, and at Jeremy_Caldera is my Twitter. So.
And if anybody wants to learn from your fine self, how would they do so?
Well, if you're college age, you can go to Columbia College.
Do I
or
look
if,
college
you're
age, Jeremy?
attending Infocom.
Yes. I should have said this beforehand. Yes, I'm looking for the. Yes, if you're college age, go to Columbia. But the Infocom classes.
Yeah, no, if you're going to Infocom this year, I will be teaching Design 1 with Mr. Espinoza. So.
Very cool. All right, sir. And Jeremy's also the chair of the CTS steering committee, so thank you, sir. Also with us is Mr. Ed Morgan. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tim.
And how do
Really
people
appreciate it.
Absolutely. And how do people find you?
Displaynote.com or at Displaynote if you're on Twitter.
All right, very good. Ed, I'm going to come back to you first after I get Mr. Tucker's Twitter handle and stuff like that. So, Mr. Tucker, how do people find you?
No, of course, at almost any social media platform, at Tucker2s. I write for Commercial Integrator, Higher Education, and some other publications out there as well.
Including Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram now, yeah.
Old man Tucker finally got on Instagram.
And
so.
Snapchat, but I don't know what I'm doing.
You're on Snapchat?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Blame Neto.
I think you can blame me on that one because so let's talk about Infocom for a second, and I'll bring Ed back in for a second. So we're going to try to do kind of a community-wide thing with Snapchat. There's something on Snapchat called My Story, and if enough of us do a story geolocated, in other words, as we're all getting to Vegas this year and we start posting things in and around Infocom, we could, in theory, create a geolocated My Story as a community around Infocom. Now, none of us are big enough to buy one, right? None of us we're not CNN or Vogue or whichever the other ones that are on Snapchat right now as actual brands. But if we all get together, we could do that, and that's one of the things we're doing. The other thing I wanted to mention is, AVNation is funded by underwriters, and there's a reason for that, and you can go on our website and find out. We just signed up a new one, and it came official yesterday, and it's a company called Biamp. Great audio company. They do really cool things with AVB, TSN. They've done DSPs for years. They have some other really cool products. And the reason I'm coming back to Ed is also one. Not Ed personally. He didn't write me a check personally, but his company did, DisplayNote. So, Ed, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I should have warned you this, but I didn't. Why did DisplayNote decide to underwrite AVNation?
Well, this probably is an exact replica of my answer at ISE. We have watched the podcast, I've read the blogs, I've been following, your social media profile for quite a while before we even thought about it, and it's just a real interest for us. It's clearly that you guys care about deeply the AV and the wider AV community. So it was just, we want to support you to continue to do that. It's not completely altruistic. You guys are, very good at supporting your underwriters as well and introducing them to other companies and, talking about them as well. So for those reasons, but really stemmed from being aware of how much work you do within the AV community, so the AV industry.
Oh, very cool. Well, thank you, sir, and thank you, and DisplayNote, and again, our new one, Biamp, so you'll see them. The other thing I wanted to mention is we're doing some cool stuff. One of the things we do at Infocom every year is our tweet up, right? And I say our tweet up is the tweet up. It's one of the things that we do. It's a networking event. Bottom line, it's free food and free drinks for 2 hours on the show floor or close to the show floor. Right now, it's scheduled for Thursday, June 9th. between 4 and 6 p.m. That is how much information I can tell you. The reason for that is if you went to last year's Tweet Up, you'll know that it was a little tight on the quarters. So we're getting a bigger room. I think last year, in my post-show blog, I mentioned getting a bigger boat, or we're getting a bigger boat. So we're getting a bigger room for this year's Tweet Up. So we should have you a room sometime the next week or so. So check that out. Chris Netto's going crazy with these things called AVTweep stickers. If you want some, send him an email or a DM. They've been doing stuff. If you go to photos.avnation.tv, Chris and they've got some really cool, interesting places where people have put the stickers. I'll just put it that way.
Did you see the one that I did, Tim?
I saw the one that you did with the graduating class. It was very cool.
That was from you.
That was, it was Jeremy's Columbia College class. That was very cool. So thank you guys for that. And again, if you need some, I think at this point we've produced and sent out something in the neighborhood of 6,000 stickers since this crazy idea came up. So, and we're actually going to create some. We're going to produce some more for Infocom. So we'll have some. So yeah, all of that. Go by the website avnation.tv, avnation.tv. You'll find this program. Our residential version of it is called AVWeek. It happens on Mondays, and a whole bunch of monthlies as well. George, anything that coming up that we need to lightcast or anybody else?
Oh my gosh, yes. There's a bunch of light casts which are interviewing a number of designers and influencers in the lighting design community. Great stuff. Fascinating people. We just did one with Robert Sonneman, who is a fantastic fixture and lighting designer. AV Apps has a few more coming out for the next few weeks. Live Life has a brand new team, so there are 2 Live Life teams, and one will be posted next week, and one's recording early Monday. And then there'll be some other little things that we're working on that'll come up very soon.
All right. Also have a special State of Control coming out that we did live at the Crestron Masters. And check out, we have a new blogger. Her name is Yanni Sanchez. She did a very fascinating 2-part series, and Jeremy, you were one of the subjects, where she basically asked them, career advice is my 2 cents, my synopsis of it. Really great piece. Just check it out if you would, please. It's again on the website, avnation.tv. avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. This has been AV Week.